Hi, my name is Joachim. I'm a psychotherapist and basically I'm a man who's looking for answers. And especially when it comes to us as men, I find a lot of questions. Because when I look around like in films and books and stories, there are so many answers being given like what a man should be. And I wonder if this is real. I don't think so. There are so many concepts around what a man should be like, and most of them I don't like. Because basically it's not been asked like, what is it like for you to be a man? How does the world in the 21st century feel for you? And I'm interested in this. And so I established circles for men. And we meet online. And we did this like in German until now, and now I'm starting to do it in English also. And we look at different questions around intimacy, job, your vocation. And we explore and share what is the reality for you as a man. And to open up to this, I asked 5 men around the world, what is it like for you to be a man?
Been thinking for many years now, what does this mean? For me, it is coming to understand that I really need to meet all parts of me that I have before neglected or abandoned within me.
I'm thinking always, why was I born in this world as man?
It's true. I don't really think about being a man that much. Maybe in relationship to romance, sex. Other than that, I don't. Or maybe I do, but for me, it's very mixed up with being a black man.
I have sort of had a love-hate relationship with being a man.
It is this quality, this masculine quality, who has the inclination or the goal to have smooth dance with the feminine quality inside me. So this is for me with what I look. I think this is mad for me to look after smooth dancing with my feminine quality.
Definitely, I'm from the South, though I think this is true just about in all America. There are definitely a lot of expectations on black men, especially when I was growing up in the 70s. Very cliched, very stereotypical type thing. Be macho, be interested in sports. What are some of the other ones? Definitely don't be gay.
But somehow I was always educated as a man to support something. And actually, I supported always in my life, in my last 50 years or 52 or 53 years. I supported always somebody or something. And then I can identify always with my masculinity by supporting something or supporting somebody.
And I grew up in a very violent world, and I joined the Marine Corps and went off to war and became an even more violent man. And, you know, I became one of the special few, the special Marines, the special tough guys. And we bonded at the expense of everybody else. We bonded because of our terror. We bonded to make the intolerable tolerable, but we bonded at the expense of women, at the expense of Vietnamese, people of color, anybody.
I think that something to do from my younger parts, from my beginnings, that I experienced the environment as something threatening. And through exploring this, I know today more about my upbringing and my very early experiences with the environment. I didn't feel myself safe, not understood, not safe. So even in the close environment and in the bigger environment, I didn't feel I am safe. So it was for me, I built up magical world, the world of magic, and I lived this my life in my side with these images that I could say, okay, I am now safe with my self-created images about myself and the world. So it was like being inside and creating environment for me, for me, yeah. Because what I think it is interesting because it is personal and collective at the same time, you know?
About the first book I ever read, I mean, really read, because I was interested in reading it, was The Metamorphosis by Kafka. Maybe, no, I think I was a bit older. It was the 10th grade, like 15. And I was not a particularly remarkable student because I did not like where I was going, and there was so much bigotry. And I wrote a paper about this book because I got so excited about the book. The book wasn't even on this woman's official reading list, but I just got excited about the book. So I wrote like almost like this 10-page paper in one night about this book. You know, I'm not saying it was a masterpiece, whatever, but I was very excited about this book. So I hand in my paper thinking that I'm going to get, you know, accolades for this book, for this report and all and stuff. And this woman, who, shall I add, is a white woman, 2 days later, she calls me up to her desk to ask me about my paper. And I say, yeah. And she hands it back to me with a big F written on top of it because she says, I've copied my paper. Now, this sort of thing would happen a lot.
I felt ashamed my whole life because I was a skinny kid. I wasn't man enough. Even as a Marine, I put the uniform on, but I was a skinny Marine and I was less than other Marines. And then I came out and I just always felt like I didn't measure up. I wasn't strong enough.
I can see parts of me that are a bit overwhelmed, that are missing out on that self-love will move through me and start maybe overeating, comfort eating, as a way to deal with this pressure or this discomfort.
For me, challenging how to live my life in this environment in which there is a lot of ideas. How should be a man? What is the ideal man? So I should think and invest, do my efforts to how should I deal with this? Because it is everywhere.
I was straight, heterosexual, And this sexuality was very oppressed in the Japanese context, in the Japanese culture. Yeah. And when I was a schoolboy, 18, 17, I thought that maybe I was ill. Yeah. And so that I could not come out, and I must be silent. And then I oppressed my sexuality and I covered my sexuality. And then I have fall in love in one lady. This is my ex-wife. And then we have married. And then 2 children came into the world. And then we had a nice, happy time with my ex-wife and with my 2 kids and so on. And after that, something was happening in my family between me and my ex-wife. And not because of my sexuality, but because of this accident in my family. We have been divorced 10 years ago. And then I could come out, not only my friends towards, but also towards my children. I could also come out, yeah. And they could accept it, yeah. They have no problem with my changing sexuality and changing position. And by changing this position and perspectives, I see and I experience with confidence the love between men and women, and the love between men and men, or the love between women and women. Of course, there are no differences. Love is love. Yeah.
A huge part of my journey has been coming to love and accept my body the way it is, and to journey down from living up here above the neck, kind of, and to being willing to slowly come down to the heart and chest, and very recently, these past 2 years, further down into the belly and my pelvis. And that, for me, that has been a movement from fear that has been keeping me up here, down to love, and to loving the parts that have had a hard time in life, that didn't want to necessarily feel the pain, so it's easier to go up into the head and not feel.
Pretty much, it is true to use a word that's somewhat overused, but in my case, it's true, an autodidactic. I'm very self-educated. I had so many experiences like that I just quit going to school. But I became an author anyway from, reading myself.
So then I went on and I finally found the men's movement. There was a big movement over here in the 80s, and it was beautiful in some ways. We'd go up into the woods and build fires and tell stories and drum and dance and cry. And it was very beautiful. But after several years, I could feel we weren't dealing with the feminine. We didn't know how to, we just sort of turned our back and we tried to be good men, but we didn't know what to do with the feminine.
In my early life, up to about the time I had 35, I never once had a girlfriend who didn't tell me, and I knew she was telling me the truth because we were intimate, that they had not, if not been raped, at some point been sexually molested. Not one. Okay, not one. Now that's very significant. When I think of being a man, I think of talking about those things.
When I'm speaking to women in this question, it feels like I really need to acknowledge the pain that man has caused woman. Yeah, I don't know why that came up. That was the first thing that came up for me, to acknowledge my behavior, our behavior as men, but yeah. yeah, I guess to acknowledge, I want to own this for myself. I don't want to speak all men, but for myself, I want to acknowledge the times where in relationship with women, when I haven't brought that self-love back, when I haven't brought that love back to myself, and when I projected that my needs and my insecurities and my wants and desires outward toward women, it has caused so much pain, both in my relationship with women and myself. And so for me, it would be an apology for not owning the different parts alive in me that are needing my love, but that I'm looking for in woman, and that I'm trying to get from woman. That when life energy rises in me, that I don't try and seek out a woman as an object to get something out of, but that I see a woman as a human being and not as an object. Yeah.
To be a man with integrity means I can't throw stones at anybody. I can't be self-righteous. I can't hate haters. I can't shame shamers. I just, it's all in me. I've done much of it. And yeah, I can't throw stones. I got to stand right in the middle of it.
I'm inviting now this dance also to make it outside in the environment, because also what is man also this dance outside, because outside also huge feminine world, and inside it also the masculine, and this dance is going on all the time. So
the beauty of being a man, sometimes when I'm making love and I'm really pleasing someone, I'm very happy that I'm able to please that person. That would be the better. But other than that, I don't think about being a man.
It sounds very abstract, but I could see and I can experience, and I want to experience more that everything is connected. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm almost inviting myself deeper into my body. And so rediscovering my body, I feel like I'm rediscovering what it means to be a man. Yeah.
It's like I couldn't find the person who was man enough. They were just images. They were characters in a novel. They weren't real people. And when I realized that I am who I am.
Directly, I don't think men have a vocabulary to talk about male issues. That's why most men talk about male. Men do not look to each other for the most part for sensitivity, understanding. They look to women for those things. Maybe there's something wrong with that. It's very difficult for men, and I'm not excluding myself in that one totally, to see men as other objects of intimacy, except insofar as talking to women, talking about women, because one, men are more in competition with each other. And men bond by training, helping each other be competitive in society. That's the only way men know how to bond. They don't really bond through. I'm making big generalizations now. I'm sure there are exceptions, but I'm talking about in general. Men don't really bond through empathy over issues. They bond through, if you have a good friend, the best that friend is going to do, well, here's a good way you can, kick ass too. Here's a good way you can be a winner too.
In myself and others, in the culture I've grown up with, in that a lot of us men don't feel safe with one another. And a lot of that leads to the superficiality that can come in conversations because of shaming or whatever happened in childhood, perhaps, or from our fathers. Or
I need this special relating to me, and I miss that. I need to relate to me not as prototype of man. I need me.
At 50 years old, I got a black belt that I'm really proud of. It was in Taekwondo, and somebody took a picture of me doing a jump up, spin around kick, and 4 guys holding boards, and I'm breaking the boards, and it is the coolest ass kickingest picture you could ever have. So when I started to get to know my sweetheart, my partner, and I would start to get vulnerable with her, one night I had to go get the picture and show it to her, and I said, don't forget that this is also me. When you hold me and I cry, please don't forget. And she said, honey, you don't need to show me that. I said, yes, I do. But it was, yeah, that fear of being so vulnerable and weak and pathetic. And yeah.
He never met my father. He apparently left when I was about 2 years old, and he never came back around. Apparently he had alcohol problems. Who knows, if I'd have had a positive male figure, maybe it would have been great. But I think not having one was better than having a negative male figure, because I know so many guys that grow up with these negative male figures. I've heard this so often when they hit their kids, and I say, you know, why? And I've talked to them, and well, my father hit me.
What I found very helpful is having, yes, absolutely, having a support in some way, where I can talk about these things and not just internalize them on my own. I feel like so much of my journey up until this point has been alone. Up until very recently, up until maybe the past 2 years, where I have started reaching out in a way and finding like a sense of community, even if they're all over the world, like yourself, you know, where I can really connect with souls who are willing to meet these places within me, with me, just as presence, so that I can really get a flavor for what is alive in me through the reflection of another, by them being present and with me. So yeah, I find that's very helpful, actually.
It's been a long time since I've had a good friend. It's been a long time since I've had a man who I can really share to just share at the levels I'm able to share.
I have learned, studied, worked, learned, studied, and so on. With high speed, and also by thinking, making a career in my life. And then somehow my power, the power of my love, was the power to love somebody, became weaker and weaker. And I want to recover my love power, you know. It means that I want to love my partner, my children, more strongly and more intensive.
Sometimes I'm totally inside, not knowing that I'm inside.
It's like the change is going to happen in groups. We cannot do this if we're not in community, if we're not in groups. And that's a huge thing for me to come to, because I've been so happy being a lone ranger and being on my own, and I can see it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
But the truth is you yourself, in the experience, in the different experiences in the life.